Hi guys, it's day 31 today. As you can see, we're back home from Hastings. I'm back in my studio. I've got Lion-O looking over me again. Missed him while I was away. So yeah, today this isn't going to be a very nice video, I don't think. And I just want to warn people in advance, just that this is going to be a tough video for me to do. I am going to talk about suicide again, unfortunately, but I'm not going to apologise for that because, as I said previously, this is something we need to address. It's something we need to talk about, and you know, I still there's this whole impression that talking about suicide is wrong or it's bad, and if we carry on with that kind of perspective on it, no one will ever be kind of comfortable talking about it. And being able to talk about it could be the difference between life and death for somebody, you know. So, like I say, I'm not going to apologise for it. I understand it may be triggering, it may be hard to hear, it may be hard to listen to, it may make people feel uncomfortable. But just because something makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about. And I feel, as I've said previously, I feel so strongly about this subject that it's something we need, as a society, we need to kind of get a grip on it. And the reason I've brought it up is, so we've come back from Hastings, we were away for the weekend, and if you've been watching the previous videos, again, I don't know who's watching the videos, I think some people are. I get the odd comment, or, you know, I see that there's a few views on YouTube, so I'm assuming somebody out there is watching these videos. I don't know how many, I don't know what people think, I don't know if people enjoy them, or not enjoy them, but get something out of them, or find them interesting at least. I don't know any of that at the moment, so it almost feels like I'm doing this for myself. And in a way, that's the way it should be. I should be, you know, primarily doing it to try and, this is like therapy in a way for me. You know, it's something I can look back on over time and see, you know, exactly how I felt at certain points, you know, over the last however many days. So yeah, like I say, we came back from Hastings. If you see my videos, I rewatched my video from yesterday, and just the difference in how I felt yesterday to how I feel today, it's like night and day, really. So that rewatching the video was almost uncomfortable in a way, because I saw a version of myself that felt lighter, you know, mood wise and just in general. You know, I was actually enjoying my experience of life at that time. So being away, you know, I mentioned it yesterday, being someplace where nobody knows me or knows anything about me, or, you know, expects me to do things or to be a certain way, that takes a lot of pressure off you. And I think everyone, it doesn't matter if you suffer with depression or not, when you're on holiday, you generally feel happier straight away. It's kind of just, that's what holidays are for. We wouldn't go on holidays if they didn't make us feel good. And my experience of this weekend away was, yeah, it was generally quite positive. As I say, my anxiety levels were kind of up and down. They were quite high at certain points, but I medicated. My foot has been a real issue, and that's what I'm going to get onto now. So basically, after I did the video yesterday where I was quite positive and upbeat and, you know, even joking around, I went to bed last night, and yeah, my foot was really not good. It was just constantly throbbing. And I don't want to keep moaning on about my foot, but it is quite relevant to what I'm going to talk about now, so I'm going to mention it again. So yeah, it was just throbbing away. I've been taking painkillers all day. I've been taking anti-inflammatories. I've been taking muscle relaxants just in case it helps. I've got sprays that I can use on it. I've been having baths. But unfortunately last night it just wasn't good. And I look back at yesterday and I think to myself, I overdid it, really. I did over 10,000 steps just walking around Hastings doing things. And, when you've got a bad foot, when you've got really bad gout, maybe 10,000 steps is not a good thing to do when you're suffering with gout. I certainly wouldn't recommend it. But part of me was determined to get through it, to fight through the pain, because it wasn't just my weekend away, it was Fran's weekend away. I wanted to make sure that we both enjoyed ourselves, that we did everything that we wanted to do, and I didn't want my foot to kind of hold us back. So I pushed myself, and looking back now, it was too much. I shouldn't have done it, and I'm regretting it now because I probably made my foot a lot worse. And that brings me to last night. So last night I was lying in bed for hours, I couldn't get comfortable. Wherever I put my foot, it just hurt. It was horrible, and generally when I can't sleep, that's normally when my mind kicks in, and that's when I've spoken before about rumination. So you start focusing on negative thoughts, and they go round and round in your head, and you can't really kind of stop them. They build up so much momentum that it's almost impossible to kind of stop them. And that's what happened to me last night. And normally after an hour or so, with the aid of a sleeping tablet or like a nice hot drink, because that can help sometimes, I'd go to sleep, and that would end the rumination cycle. But last night, because I couldn't sleep with my foot, it was just continuous, and that led to a lot of suicidal ideation, and that's what I want to talk about today. And I want to make it very clear straight away that suicidal ideation in itself doesn't mean that I'm planning to kill myself. It doesn't mean that I'm, suicidal to the point where I've got a plan, I've put a plan in place, I intend to commit suicide. It can mean that. There's two different types of suicidal ideation. There's passive and there's active. So passive suicidal ideation is where you constantly think about suicide. You think about the what ifs, like what if I wasn't around? How would people react? How would people's lives go on without me? Even down to what would my funeral be like? What would people say about me? How would life go on without me in it? So that's pretty much what I do a lot of the time. So that's passive suicidal ideation, which in and of itself doesn't mean that I'm suicidal. That can develop into active suicidal ideation, which is where you go to the point of planning and you're putting a plan in place, or attempting suicide, or actually, going through with it. So last night I was going through a lot of passive suicidal ideation. It's nothing new. It's something that I do a lot. It's probably something a lot of depressed people do and live with. I think it's very misunderstood. I think if you start talking to people about suicidal ideation, they'll get uncomfortable, and they won't know what to say or how to deal with the conversation. But yeah, that's the reality of what I was dealing with last night. So, and one of the main things that I was ruminating about was the fact that because I'd had such a good weekend up until that point, and I had had glimpses of happiness, and I did enjoy certain aspects of the weekend. Part of my mind was telling me that, well, that's enough now. You've had a good time. You've had a good weekend. You can go now. You can let yourself go, and it'll be like a good time for you to not be around anymore. Like you've peaked almost. And that was what was going through my head last night. And it's not nice. And it's kind of stuck with me. So I didn't get very much sleep. I had lots of those kind of negative thought processes ruminating, going through my head. The suicidal ideation was kicking in. I was asking myself, well, we've had a good weekend. We've had a great experience. This could be a good point where I could end things. And, I mean, I'm not at the stage where it's become active. So I don't want people to worry or, be stressed out or, freak out about it. This is not new. This is common. It's quite common. This is quite usual for me. Again, it's part of my pattern. So I go through this pattern all the time. So I'm used to it. And I know exactly when it gets to the point where I may, because I have got to the point where it's become active. And unfortunately, that's ended up with me being hospitalised. I say unfortunate, it was probably a good thing because it saved my life going into hospital. Um, so I don't know what I'm trying to say really. I want to try and demystify or destigmatize this concept of like what suicide is to people. So people can go through their whole lives, with suicidal thoughts going through their minds, but it's something they may never act on. So it's not this big scary thing that if someone starts talking about it, you have to have them committed. They have to have treatment. People live with it. I've lived with it for most of my life. It's only when it kind of gets unbearable and it leads to active suicidal ideation where you start putting plans in place and you start, actively wanting to do it and committing to it. That's when it gets scary. And that's when people need to step in and kind of help. Um, so what I wanted to say today is the difference between now and maybe a year and a half ago when I went from passive to active. I was keeping a lot of things to myself. I wasn't talking to anyone about it. I wasn't opening up to Fran. I was keeping it all in because I wanted to spare people's feelings. I wanted to, I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. So I closed myself off, didn't speak about it, just let it build up and build up and build up until it got to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore. And as I say, I ended up being hospitalised. Difference to today is, first thing this morning, I told Fran what had been going on. I told her what I was thinking, what was going through my mind. I'm seeing my psychiatrist on Tuesday, so again, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to talk to him about it. Obviously, I've got ongoing therapy, so I'll be talking about it again. And yeah, it's the support. It's basically the support network that's in place. I know I have people I can talk to and talk through my feelings with, so it doesn't get to that point where it changes from passive to active. And yeah, that's vital. It really is, knowing that that kind of support's there and it's non-judgmental. People are going to listen to me. People are going to kind of talk through my feelings, so kind of rationalize it and bounce ideas off people. So that's the difference. The difference is I have that kind of support network in place. But today, yeah, I'm feeling pretty rough. I feel bad because yesterday was so good, and today it's almost like reality's kind of slammed back into me, and my depression's kind of said, "Well, you've had a couple of days reprieve. You've had enough. Now let's get back to the business of being depressed." And yeah, it's hit me like a ton of bricks, unfortunately. I don't think I'm anywhere near as bad as I have been, but I feel like I might be heading in that direction. And again, it's the support that I have around me that I know I can lean on that's going to make the difference, I think. So yeah, I just want to do a quick video today to talk about that. And again, just to reiterate that this isn't some dirty little secret that people should hold and not talk about. If people are in this situation, there has to be support there. We have to be open to helping people. And yeah, I don't know how, but I want to make it easier for people to reach out and get the help that they need, basically. And I want the people on the other side of the equation to understand it, so they're not like scared off or freaked out, or it's never as bad as you think it is. People just need help sometimes, and sometimes they just need someone there to help them and just to talk to them and listen to them. And I think if we all did a bit more of that, we'd be in a lot better place. I'm going to leave it there now. I feel like I'm getting a bit preachy, but yeah, I guess I'll see you guys tomorrow. Sorry, I'm doing this on a bank holiday weekend when everyone's out enjoying the sunshine and having a great time. Don't want to bring anyone down. I only ever want to try and kind of highlight things and raise issues that are really important. So yeah, hopefully I've done that, and uh, let's see what happens. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.